matters, I would like to start from this question. What is your vision of ESO?
My vision, let's say I have several folds on my vision for ESO. One more short term is to expand the representation we have in Europe, because we did start as a European organization, and we are, if I'm not incorrect now, we are organizing 16 or 17 countries today of the EU group of countries. A defined target for R&T is now to approach the countries, mainly Eastern Europe, and to expand the representation of Europe, because it will be good for our industry, of course. We also have a lot of companies that are active in many of these markets, but it will also make us stronger when we connect with the European Commission and in political terms, because we can say that we more or less represent all of Europe. In parallel to this, a more, let's say, long-term vision that I have is also to connect a process that already started, to connect ESO with entities outside of Europe. Because again, if you go to Brazil, for example, I mean, the biggest roller blind maker in Sao Paulo, he imports all his fabric from Europe. So wherever I went in my past profession in the world, I could find a handful of European companies being active there. But not only for that purpose. I mean, we share the sun and the problems and the overheating issues today, etc. All of us, more or less the same. So why don't we come together as a global entity as well? So sometimes with a bit of a smile, I say before I leave the show, I would like to sit in the room where we say, hereby we have organized a global entity for our industry. Mm-hmm. So that's short and long term, you could say.
Okay. Tell us about ESO's advocacy efforts with the UN, and what are the UN's environmental goals?
Yeah, well, UN is a fairly new connection for us. And they have their defined, I think, 15 overall goals. We are connected not to the main UN, but you could say the building section of UN that is called the Global ABC. But we definitely see that we connect with some of their goals. And this is what we are aiming to do now, but it's actually starting right now. So we have invited now their CEO from Paris, Jonathan Darwin, to come to R&T and be part of the ESO event during the Wednesday, to give his vision on the global perspective and also what we can play as an important role in achieving their goals. I will also during winter offer their members, there are 365 members around the world, offer them a webinar just to give the first, visual appearance of ESO into this. And we have also submitted a paper to COP28 with immense competition, obviously, but so this is where we are at the moment, and we have our fingers crossed that it will bring some more attention, because I think short term for us to be approved by as a member of the United Nations also verifies that ESO is a serious organization. That was the first important step. It's a verification on that we were approved for this, and they looked at us and they see what we do, and they approved us, and I think that was an important first step, and we take it from there.
Of course. So tell us why you're here. I mean, as ESO, why you're here in Greece. Just a few words about that.
Yeah, well, it's because we are very positive to have this amazing development from a very, let's say, slightly negative attitude from the Greek industry initially. We had contacts in the past, but seeing the younger generation entering the industry, etc., and from 0 to almost 100 in a very short time. So we said we would like to pay the respect of the Greek industry and show our appreciation and make them feel even more welcome and well informed and engaged. So this is why.
Okay, tell us a few words about the accession of Greece to the ESO and the upcoming accession of Spain. We joined, Spain is going to join, so a few words about that.
Well, it's again, I think it's also a motivator that Greece as a new country joined. It motivated really Archites and Maria and a few others in Spain. Spain used to have an organization in the past, but they were a sub-organization, you could say, of a facade kind of organization. And we lost connection with them, but now they are reforming it, standing on their own legs, because they see also, the drivers in Spain are seeing this development and say, the shading industry in Spain is falling behind if we're not organized and part of the game here. I also recently heard from a good friend and contact in the industry in Czech Republic. He had a meeting with some leading companies in the Baltics just the other week, and their ambition is actually to really speed up and have hopefully an organization formalized before the end of the year. So I think when let's say sleeping markets see that something is developing and there is a reason for that, and they see the train leaving the station, I think it can motivate, like, we should be on that train as well and be part of this.
The question about Greece
and Spain
and the upcoming accession of Spain, yes.
Yeah.
You can repeat.
Well, I think that what they saw in Spain from having an organization in the past as a sub-organization of a facade kind of organization and leaving ESO, I think that some, let's say, spirited people in our industry in Spain really saw that now Greece are joining, we have more Eastern European countries coming, we should be, and Spain is obviously one of the bigger countries in Europe, so they really took the issue serious and had some good discussions, and it motivated them to get started, and here they are. They are presenting now at the General Assembly tomorrow the formal documents on their legal entity, so it's done. Very positive.
Another chapter is architecture and shading. Architects love wide openings, but shading doesn't, really. So what is your opinion on this? Can these two be combined?
Yeah, that's a hot topic, and if we had one solution, the person coming up with the one solution will become a millionaire, because there is a combination and conflict of interest here, and we are discussing it here now today in the marketing committee. I mean, our main challenge as an industry, we could condense down to one word, and that's awareness, lack of awareness. During many years, every year, because I did reporting to my employer, I met maybe between 300 to 600 architects, consultants, developers, etc. every year. And I saw the same story everywhere. There is, as a starting point, there is an immense lack of understanding what shading really is about. And then you start adding some, because there are several pieces to this puzzle. So now we have, for example, problems with heat waves, so overheating comes, buildings are overheating, people are suffering, so in panic mode, some architects and building regulators, they just shrink windows to mitigate the problem. But what they don't understand really is what dynamic shading really can do. And one way for me to explain or market us is to say to the glass industry, which I also speak to, is that we are potentially your best friend, because we can help, us being present, we can help you to maintain bigger windows. That's increased production volume for the glass industry, which is an Achilles heel for them, but it also means beneficial for people, because you have nicer working environments and nicer home environments. So this is this balancing, and this is just mentioning a couple of them. We can talk an hour about the lack of budget, for example, in building process. That's another challenge we have in many European countries. But we are getting our voice heard out there. So Last week in Oslo, there was a building exhibition. I was there. We had maybe close to 100 architects and 200 developers and consultants. And we brought the message of dynamic solar shading based on the knowledge we have today. And we got very, very positive feedback afterwards. So, yeah, they see us and they start to believe us. And if we make some noise,
they start seeing you, actually.
Yeah, it will take time, but we are developing, definitely.
And one last question. The climate has changed dramatically in recent years. What shading suggestions can emerge within this context, something like this situation?
You mean what role shading can play?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I actually last week came up with a new punchline because I do a lot of presentations, and I listened also to 8 or 9 other companies and industries doing their presentations at this building show. I heard a lot about CO2, obviously, and then I heard a lot about U value, insulation. And I was the last one speaking, and I said, I don't hear anything about solar heat gain, G value, because that's the 2 values you need to manage the thermal balance. And I said, instead of me advocating for the solar shading industry, trying to stand here on stage and advocate that we could help to fight climate change, which would be extremely ambitious, I say what solar shading can do already tomorrow, if we are recognized, we can help to adapt to climate change, because that's what we need to do as well, because the people suffering in our European society, not looking at the poor undeveloped countries, but in Europe, it's elderly people, handicapped, and our children that are the first ones to take the hit of high temperatures. And dehydration, unfortunately, if you get damaged by dehydration, you have a permanent damage in your body for life. So it's very, very serious. And we can play a major role in helping to adapt. So that's kind of my message today.
Okay, thank you very much. So these were my questions. If you would like to add anything else or something that we didn't include to our questions.
How many hours do you have? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
No, that's fine. Okay. I don't come up with anything in particular. We are, well, I think it's a positive development that could be mentioned, which also will be highlighted during R&T. Is that we will focus a lot on the importance of preparing our industry for the new business environment. And that means we need to start with even people in our factories, our installers. We were just discussing before meeting you, what different levels of knowledge and general understanding about solar shading that we can bring, and also all the way up to, let's say, sophisticated sales reps, etc., because they will be met with questions from consumers and from architects, consultants, and we need to be prepared as an industry so we can answer these questions. And I always say it starts with knowledge, because with knowledge you can behave more as a professional, and if you are recognized as such, people will trust your advice and your information, and the consequence is they will allow you to influence their decisions. And that's how we can move our industry forward. Because I always say we cannot claim a seat at the table when decisions about the building is made. We need to deserve it. And we need to deserve it every day. So knowledge is key. Connected to the big question about sustainability, etc. So this is what we work intensively around.